I have to do this. I'll work my ass off so that I can afford to have a vacation and to record an album. That becomes the goal.
Yeah.
When we get together in a room, like, we can create anything. And I'd rather do this than absolutely anything else.
Welcome to the Spencer Whiteout podcast. Rated R.
Criminal charges with you, bro. Guess like we're avoiding the shark. Call it leather fetish, dude.
No, today, Turbo Neck Day.
I'll give you a kiss. You give me your number.
That checked out a ton, dude. Tell me you felt.
We're Americans. We're the ones that are descendants from the 1776 musket-bearing motherfuckers.
Welcome back to the Spencer Whiteout podcast, where we collect experiences as badges, memories as treasures, and stories as wealth. In this episode, I interview Adam, the clean vocalist and bass player of Grayscale Season. We talk all about their formation, songwriting process, DIY approach, working with Buster Odeholm, and much, much more. Let's dive in.
Thank you so much. I'm stoked about this. Looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah. So take me back to the beginning. How did you get into heavier music, and what were some of those early influences?
I remember so vividly when I was 10 or 11, I saw this commercial for a DVD. It was this muscular dude inside a cave with a jackhammer. And it was for one of like the music videos for Rammstein for the song Sonne. And I remember that sound, like that metallic sound, like in sync with the jackhammer of sparks, and my like 10-year-old brain was like, oh, this is great. And then like pretty quick after that, actually, I started like listening a lot to black metal, their Norwegian black metal scene. That was dope. Got into Cannibal Corpse for sure, and I got to meet them at one point in Gothenburg. I have a signed CD from The Kill, so I guess that's in 2004. Yeah, like 20 years ago. That was dope. So yeah, like those were some of the earliest memories for sure. And then I really loved and still do POD. One of my all-time favorite bands. I steal from them all the time.
How so?
Well, so like a lot of like things the vocalist, he will do either in terms of like delivery. Sonny has a way of like delivering with a lot of emotion that I try to emulate. So like I guess I emulate more than I steal rather. But also in terms of lyrics rather, he writes very poetically, and I try to at least aspire to that. Do you remember the album Satellite from 2001?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
my favorite one.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think it was released on September 11th even.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so like that made it even more impactful. Just like the song, The Youth of the Nation, that lyric is one of the best lyrics ever written, because like it talks about the teenage angst and like the part of being human and respecting yourself and difference between men and women, and yeah, very profound. So yeah, I steal a lot from them for sure. Love those guys. I really loved a lot of Christian music for sure. I'm not Christian myself, but I gravitated towards that. I guess it's a lot about like the honesty that those guys have. They really mean what they're saying, and I might not agree with it, but I really like the honesty.
Yeah, that's funny you bring up the Christian music, because I grew up on Christian rock, and I wasn't able to listen to any of the secular music when I was younger, and so I just tore through all these Christian rock bands. I knew all of them. I loved all of them.
Yeah,
it's cool you mentioned POD, because they're super sick. And they came through the observatory in Orange County and for Satellite 20-year anniversary. So they played the album front to back. It was so sick.
Oh, that's big. That's really big.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
So talking about your band, Grayscale Season, how did the name come about?
Yeah, so it's not super cool. We live in Gothenburg. So Gothenburg is on the west coast of Sweden, and it's pretty much like London. It's always gray and sort of raining, so hence the name. If you look up at the sky, it's going to be a grayscale for sure. So that's the name, Grayscale Season.
But then again, you weren't in the band when that name was chosen, right? So you can't take any of the credit or the blame.
None. Thank you.
Yeah.
So none of the blame and for sure none of the credit. No, that's right.
Yeah.
But it does sound nice.
2 words, 2 syllables, Grayscale Season.
Exactly.
Right?
And the logo's great and all of that. But the only thing is that people spell gray differently.
Yeah.
But we did it the American way, at least, with an A.
Well, and then the other problem is that there's another band just called Grayscale.
Yeah.
And then there's a record label called Grayscale, which I'm sure you've heard about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And both are awesome. So that sucks for us.
Well, maybe you'll get some Overflow fans, or maybe you guys can share a fan base a little bit, right?
Apparently, we already have.
Yeah, so talk about the band formation and when you joined the band.
So Richard and Eddie started back in 2012, and they had 2 other guys with them, a drummer and a bass player. And I, at that time, played in a band in Gothenburg called Art Far Away, and we played the same venue as Grayscale Season. And I had a guitar that I had bought that was Stephen Carpenter from Deftones. I bought it from his guitar tech because Stephen got 2 ESP guitars that he didn't like. So he gave them to his tech as payment. And it was a stand-in tech, and that dude didn't play 8 strings. So I bought them from him. And we played that show with one of those guitars, and Richard loved Deftones. So we just started talking backstage, and I became quick friends with the guys. And then I think they were just about to record their first EP. They had done a single before called Drown, and then they were doing an EP, and they wrote me and do you want to come and scream on this song? So I joined them for that. And then after their bass player left, it was just this natural thing because my band had already quit playing at that point. They needed a bass player. We were great friends, so that all came together. So that was really fun. And then that drummer left, and now we have a guy called Lo who plays with us, who's been with us since Everything Hurts. So I think he started playing with us in maybe 2018, something like that.
Yeah, nice. Dude, that's funny you bring up the Steph Carpenter guitar model because the last musician podcast I did with Fabian Vaca, he had that same guitar and he mentions it on the podcast. So,
oh, that's dope.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
One of the best guitars ever. It's fantastic. Such a classic. It's so clean. It doesn't look that metal.
But it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's so metal.
Dude, so I read that interview that you did, and I liked this quote. I wanted to bring up this quote. It says, "You could call it therapy. That's fair, I guess. But I'd say it's more important. It's to be able to live. What else would I do with my time? This is what we want to do. We have to do it."
Yeah.
It's epic. I love it.
Yeah. Well, so it's one of those things where every word of that is true. What else would I actually do with my time? Everyone needs to work. That's great. You need some way to finance what you love, which is this. And I'd rather do this than absolutely anything else. It's the best thing in the world. And to work with these guys, I mean, we are good friends, but we are even better colleagues. When we get together in a room, we can create anything. And that's the best thing ever. I have to do this. I'll work my ass off so that I can afford to have a vacation and to record an album. That becomes the goal.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that quote because I feel the same way with my passions of filmmaking and podcasting. It's I wouldn't rather do anything else with my free time.
Yeah.
It's this is the thing I'm working on when I'm not at work at the day job trying to make money. It's I'm over here podcast planning and reaching out to artists and writing my screenplays and trying to figure out how to get another movie going and all that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so you know exactly what it's about. You do something that is fine to do something that you love. And you might even do something that sucks as long as you get to do something that you love.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt this, but for me, it's always been kind of hard to like fully invest in any sort of day job because it's like, oh, it's not my dream. It's not the thing I want to be doing. And so it's like, that's always the battle, is like giving it 100% when it's like, you know, you just wish that your passions and your art could be supporting you financially.
Yeah.
You know,
I know exactly what you mean, but when I'm at work, I'm only at work. And I work really hard to actually build a career. I love my job. I'm a marketing manager for a senior recruitment firm, and it's awesome. And I spend a lot of time building my portfolio there and like becoming really good at it. So I thoroughly enjoy that. But I know that if I'm good at that, it will allow me to live a life where I can make this music.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate in that. I know other people, they have jobs they hate. I'm very fortunate that I love my job, and it also then enables me to do music. But I understand completely what you mean, because I used to be that person until I got this job.
I've just bounced around from a lot of jobs, and it's like trying to find something that can still be enjoyable and good. But yeah, it's kind of tough.
Oh, no, it is tough. And I think it's tough for actually most people. So I don't think I am the norm by any means. I think I'm very lucky in that sense. And I'm grateful for that, for sure. Can't take it for granted, because the alternative is not fun.
Yeah, what's the alternative? Letting your dreams die.
Yeah, exactly.
That's never an option. So
No, good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me about live shows. How have those been? And also like a little bit of the music scene out in Sweden.
So we haven't really played live since 2018.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been bad for us. And I can only blame us for that, for sure. So we did a lot of tours in Europe in 2017 and 2018. Those were great. So we went all over the place. And then we got home and we decided to work on Everything Hurts. And then we wrote that album. We started releasing it. We got signed, pulled the album to re-upload it through our new label. Then the pandemic hit. So we couldn't go out to support the album. So we instead decided then, after the pandemic was over, we were already doing another album cycle, and then we're on to this cycle. So my hope is that we start touring again this year and 2025.
Yeah. Well, do you have any best or worst shows that stick out in your mind from the ones you've played so far?
Yeah, for sure. So the guy who ran the club, he had a big glass jar of weed just out in the open, and that was the entire audience, which was great. Yeah, so like no one came. There was not a single soul there. It was in a shady industrial area, and it turned out no one had promoted it at all, so no one showed up. Yeah, no, we did play, so that was fun. There are so many stories from tour. Like one place in Slovakia, we were playing this festival, and this guy, he said, "You and I need to take a shot of vodka to celebrate my daughter's health." He took 2 shot glasses that had already been drunk out of, and I'm a very clean person, so I didn't really enjoy that from the get-go. I asked him, "So why are we drinking to the health of your daughter? Like, is everything okay?"
Destroying our health and celebrating
exactly.
hers.
So yeah, we took the shot, and then he says, "Well, we're celebrating that she doesn't have hepatitis C." As he's saying that, he spits me in the mouth.
And you're already drinking out of these dirty shot glasses.
And then he
all
spits
this.
in my mouth. So like I was so worried. But I think like Hep C actually it's only through blood transmission or whatever. But I did get tested when I got home. So there are a couple of fun stories like that. I think the best show was actually here in Sweden. We played a town like 2 hours away from Gothenburg. It was with a band called Whiteout. Awesome guys. They hosted this show. It was fantastic. Like a small venue. I love playing small venues. And the people there, a lot of them knew our songs, which we're not super used to. And it was just great to see like people knowing the songs. Like they were anticipating the hits. So they knew when to headbang. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then talking about your songwriting process, at one point you said writing a song is fairly easy. Making it good, that's the tricky part. I thought that was a great quote.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, writing music isn't actually that hard. Like, anyone could write a song, especially now. Like, you can just throw in a bunch of drum loops. You already have all the synths and sounds that you need in every DAW available, pretty much. But making it good, that's hard. Like, for us, it's just like fiddling around. Like, yeah, that sounded cool. Yeah, play that. Let's loop that a couple of times and then do like shitty drums to it because we know Buster will fix the drums later. Writing is fairly easy, but then it comes down to like, okay, how do you actually make this sound really good and cohesive, and where should the melodies go? And before we had so many layers in our songs, now we try to strip it back because usually it serves the song better.
Less is more.
Yeah, less is more for sure.
It's like, what's going to make people come back to it? That's the thing, because there's so much music out there that it's like, you know, you could listen to all kinds of good music, but like, what's the music that's really great? You know, it's those tunes that you keep coming back to because you want to hear it again.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt that with this newer release, specifically Custom Painted. I remember because I was listening through all the tracks and then I was like, I want to go back a song. I don't want to finish the album yet. I want to hear that song multiple times. And it's like, that's rare. That's a hard thing to come by when you want to listen to a song on repeat because it's that good. That's a big deal.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I'm really pleased to hear that. Custom Painted was a cool song. It's just a bunch of chords. We usually do a lot of riffs, but that song are basically just chords. I'm happy that you like that song. And that song came together so quick. And also, like, those lyrics are like the early 2000s about like growing up and like finding your place in the world. And there's a line in there that goes, if you have to ask, you'll never know. It's one of those things like, if you are in love with someone and you want to know if they love you back, it's very hard to ask. And if you ask, you will probably never know because then you missed your shot. Then you destroy the moment. If you had to ask, you should just have acted upon it instead. That's the teenage angst and the love. It made me think of your movie.
Yeah, that's super good.
Cool.
I love that. And then I was going to ask about the choice to sing in English rather than Swedish. Is that because, you know, just to be more commercially successful and widen the net?
Yeah, I guess so. And also 99.9% of all the music that we consume is in English.
Yeah.
I think it's because we want to connect with the most people possible. And you do that through English. Also, English is such a beautiful language. And it's so varied. It's just great to be able to write in that.
Do you ever sneak any Swedish into any of the songs?
Oh, yeah, sure. There's a song called Summer from our last album, Do You Like Violence? And in there, we took like this old folk song that every Swede knows. The blooming season is coming. It's the direct translation of the song title, I guess. And we just took the first verse of that and just put it in the song. And that's all just in Swedish.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the first two albums, Head to Mist and Everything Hurts, and kind of what headspace you guys were in at those times.
So we first came off that EP and I joined the band. We had decided that we wanted to do an album. Head to Mist is raw. It's written in the rehearsal space. With Everything Hurts, we had a new drummer, Lo. Lo had a lot of ideas coming in. He likes to think more technical about the songs. We played more around with time signatures. We tried to perfect transitions could be better, or you would maybe make a pause somewhere so the impact would hit harder when like the next part came on. Everything Hurts was a pain to write. I hated the writing process for it. It took so much time. I think I clocked in like 2,000 hours for that album. So many hours, because like I could see the time logs in Logic on how much time I spent on just the pre-pros for it. But it turned out really good. And the cool thing with Everything Hurts is that it was the first time that we as a group had made something that was very cohesive. You can listen to the entire thing and it makes sense. There's no song out of place, which feels good. So like, I'm proud of the actual work. It's not our best work. Our best work came from Do You Like Violence and After, but it's really good.
Yeah. Now talk to me about your collaboration with Buster Odeholm.
Oh, yeah, sure. So Buster mixed and mastered Everything Hurts. And when we started writing Do You Like Violence, we didn't have a drummer at that time. Lo dropped out for a bit. He needed to focus on other things. And we had relied so much on him to write music because we can't write drums, but we needed to start learning that to actually be able to produce the songs, because like, I have to do this. So if there's an obstacle, like not being able to write drums, you need to just fucking learn it and start doing it. So we started writing that, and we really loved Buster's production. So we had never met at this point. We had just sent emails. I just called them and pitched that, do you want to work with us as a producer? Because we need to step up our game. This is where we suck. We are proficient at playing. We know how to write songs that sound like us, but we need to take the next step in becoming good at the craft of writing songs and cohesive songs. He had never, at least to my knowledge, he had never worked as a producer at that point. He'd done it for his own bands, but not with other bands. So he took a gamble on us, and I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, he came down the first time I met him. We hugged, and after that, we just became really good friends. He's the nicest guy, and he's so smart, and he's so talented. Like, you just become better when you're in the room with him. So it's a real treat to be able to work with him.
And for those who don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Buster is from Humanity's Last Breath and Viljarta. And yeah, he is just an incredible musician.
Yeah.
And he's a mastermind at what he does.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about Do You Like Violence? I want to talk about the album inspiration, some of the highlights of creating that album, you know, some favorite tracks, how it was received. That's about the time that I saw you guys come up on my radar, because I'd never heard about you before that, but it seemed like you gained a lot of exposure with that album, and it was a big step up.
Like, Do You Like Violence? It's, at least up until that point, it's the best piece of music I've ever been a part of. Played in a lot of bands throughout the year, written a ton of songs, but like, Do You Like Violence is just a different planet for me. It's the first time decided to not really care about what really is Grayscale season. Like, it can be whatever we want it to be. The song Violence, it's a piano track. It's supposed to be a palate cleanser. I wrote that after a breakup. The same night after me and my ex had broken up. Okay, yeah, I need to write something. It's just 2 chords on the guitar, and then I just transposed that to a piano, and that became the song. That song doesn't fit with anything else on the album, but it just makes sense, which is great. And I like that about us, that we can have like a piano trap song in the midst of all those heavy songs. Richard really stepped up his songwriting skills as well, because again, it was just to get out of your comfort zone of like just playing breakdowns. Like, how do we make something really pretty? And we tried to do a really strong opener. There's a song on there called Pink Mist that's, again, very different. Like, a lot of vocal layers and ethereal.
You love your falsetto singing.
Oh yeah, so much falsetto. Like, I needed to push my balls into my balls to be able to hit those high notes. Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah, it's very heavy. So like, that's also when we started to realize that we like the juxtaposition of things, like to have some sort of contrast, but it needs to be a very harsh contrast to combine the beautiful and the heavy, I guess. And a lot of cool lyrics on that album, which I enjoy. Some people hate it, which is also fun. It's very polarizing.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm not a fan of Pillow Grin.
Oh yeah, no, some people hate that song. I think it's dope. Yeah, I guess it comes off as very harsh and direct, and probably a bit cringeworthy to some.
You can't win them all.
No, but I appreciate you saying that you actually don't like the song, because most people, they will tell me that they like it, but I see people online telling me that they don't. So it's good to actually hear someone be truthful about it.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I like most of all the other songs, but
Yeah,
not that
no,
one.
that's fine. You don't have to love everything for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about the new album, Feel Something New, and kind of go through like a track by track breakdown of it.
Sure.
The first track, Still Hurts. Super cool, heavy track. And then the second half obviously shifts into that really ethereal territory. And that's actually why I reached out, was because that was the song that really blew me away, you know, because it's like, for me, it's kind of an art form trying to figure out which bands I want to bring on the podcast, because there's so much good music out there. But it's like bands have to check a number of boxes, because it's like any band could have like an amazing song or two. But it's like, do they check enough boxes of like, okay, do I like enough of these songs? Do I feel like they have potential? You know, how is their aesthetic? Is this going to be a good fit for my podcast? Because I only have a limited amount of time and resources. And so it's like, I want to make sure that the bands I reach out to are going to be worth my time, you know? And so when Still Hurts came out, that was, I don't know, second or third single from this new album. You know, that second half of the song was just like really, really mind blowing and gave me goosebumps when I heard it. And I was like, okay, this is something really special. And so that's why I wanted to reach out. So tell me about your thoughts on that track.
First off, thank you so much for the compliment. I really appreciate that. It means a lot.
Well, it seems like a lot of people really like this track from what I've seen online.
When we wrote it, we assumed that people will probably think it's cool. Of course, we're aware that it's a curveball, but the reception thus far has been fantastic. It's very humbling. When people like the things that you do, that is what you want, but you still get surprised every time. And it's just fantastic. It's the best way of connecting with someone, because like once you release it, it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
But when you get to like connect with people like this, you and us having this human interaction, we're on opposite sides of the globe to each other. But because of that song, we can now talk. And I think that's fantastic. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, so that song, first off, those riffs, POD all the way through. All the riffs are just POD. I literally said to Richard, like, let's make a POD riff. We had written all like the heavy parts, and then we had no clue what to do with the rest of the song. Because like if we just continued repeating the parts, it would get boring. If we did a crazy breakdown at the end, that would be boring. And I play a lot of acoustic guitar and finger picking. So, okay, can we maybe just give us a big contrast instead? Like, can we just do a hard switch to something like this? And I had written that pattern maybe 2 weeks prior. So I just remember having it recorded on my phone as a video just to remember it. And I showed it to Richard and he's like, yeah, this is great. And then let's just put some heavy guitars on top of it. So let's create a loop. And then we added Richard's guitars on top of that. Very cool song. It came together fairly quickly, but again, to make it good, took so much time.
Yeah, I really love the vocal distortion on Still, and then it's like ... hurts. It sounds really piercing, and like it sounds much more emotional with whatever that vocal effect you put on that. That was like a really cool choice.
Yeah, cool. It's a vocoder. I love vocoders.
Yeah. Dude, okay, so you mentioned POD. I had to ask what your favorite POD songs are.
Oh, okay. So, Youth of the Nation. Actually, the entire album that is just called Payable on Death.
Wildfire.
Yeah, Freedom Fighter, Will You. Fantastic songs, yeah.
My favorites is like Youth of the Nation, obviously.
Yeah.
And Set It Off is a really sick song.
Great song.
And then I recently discovered Hollywood. Have you heard that song?
I have not.
Dude, yeah, Hollywood on Southtown, the first track. And I was like, dude, this song is actually really sick. It's got like a really cool dark energy to it. Just like a lot of weird guitar effects and stuff. So definitely check that song out.
Oh, that's dope.
All right, well, let's talk about track 2, It Consumes Me. So this one's kind of similar to the first track in that, you know, the first half is very heavy and then the second half is much more melodic. It almost turns kind of a little bit poppy and a little bit melodic and anthemic. So tell me your thoughts on that song.
Yeah, so we wanted to write something that was fairly simple, so it's very chord based. So that's why that song actually has a lot of vocal effects on it, because Eddie spent a lot of time like trying to sound design his vocals. When we got to like the clean break, it became obvious like, okay, we need to have clean vocals in here. It was written for that. We didn't know what they were supposed to be. And I was by myself in the studio just trying to figure out what to do with that part. And let's just repeat one sentence and try to make it like really catchy. We haven't done that a lot. I think it becomes really cohesive. I'm stoked for people to actually hear it.
Yeah, a little bit of a new direction for you guys.
Yeah.
And then Verified, this is like the perfect lead single track. You know, it's quick, catchy choruses, and then big ending breakdowns, obviously, with a nice drop tuning.
Yeah, drop tuning.
I gotta admit, I've definitely driven up to work blasting this song before on my two 12-inch subwoofers, you know,
awesome.
And caught a few side eyes. And, you know, it's the best compliment is when the people next to you like roll up the windows, you know, or like when an elderly lady, you know, she hears and she shakes her head and she mutters to herself, "This generation." Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah. Verify was one of those songs where we wrote that with Buster, and that song, we wanted to make it short, to make it bouncy, and it's our Limp Bizkit song. We loved Limp Bizkit. It was fun to do the back and forth between me and Eddie, almost like a call and response, which is also fun to just like try and explore with that sort of sound. It became really cool. I love that song.
Yeah, that's sick. Now let's talk about number 4, Hands. Epic line in here. "I just want to be loved all kinds of ways." That's a sick line. And then my favorite part is at the end when he says, "I don't have it." And the ending scream is just like packed with so much emotion. And it just really showcases what a beast of a vocalist Eddie is.
Eddie spent a lot of time on that song as well. I think his vocal performance is just off the charts on it. Yeah, I've talked about this before, but he's so fucking candor. Like, it's so brave to write a line like that. "I just want to be loved in all kinds of ways." But yeah, a beautiful song. And it's cool when there's not too many clean vocals on there. So it becomes just more like a heavier track altogether. Yeah,
and I love the ending where it gets like those like whoosh sounds and it just sounds like a percussive wall of sound rather than like guitar notes. And it's just like that was, I don't know, that was super cool.
Yeah, worked a lot with sound design on this album.
All right, so let's talk about track number 5. Yeah, you said Dolar.
Dolar, I think it's the English pronunciation of it.
It's like a piano ballad.
Yeah.
It's got some nice electronics in there as well. It's very like nostalgic, atmospheric song.
Yeah, that song was really hard to write. We had the first half of the song nailed pretty quick. I remember writing the vocals on a train, just listening to the song, writing lyrics, humming the melodies into my phone, going back to the studio. Okay, good. We have that all down. And then it's like, okay, but where do we go from here? Do we throw in a breakdown or do we do something else? So we really wanted to do something that maybe the band Hum would do, or Linkin Park would do, like having the electronic drums over a piano loop and then just big chords on top of that. Yeah, there's a lot of Linkin Park in that song for sure. Gives you that Stranger Things feeling. Yeah, well, you like the 80s and the music from the 80s.
Yes, I do. I love Stranger Things. And yeah.
Did that song jive with you?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think it's placed in a good spot on the album too, because it is like the soft ballad. Yeah. And so having it in the middle of the album works pretty well.
Yeah.
Number 6, Custom Painted. Love the song. I love how the chorus was kind of half screamed, half sung. You know, it's hard to create a memorable screamed chorus, but I think you guys accomplished that. And also I love the kind of multi-layered guitars in the bridge and just how huge it all sounds. So that was a highlight for me.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. And you know why it's called Custom Painted?
Why?
Because Buster had ordered some custom painted shoes that same week, and we talked about it, and it's like, yeah, this song should be called Custom Painted. Yeah, of course it should be. So yeah, that's why it's called Custom Painted.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Talk to me about number 7, Gold.
Gold was one of those songs, like, we had 12 hours left with Buster, so we started writing that at maybe around lunch on Saturday, and he was leaving at 8 on Sunday night. Yeah, a bit of super heaven, a bit of hum.
Shoegazy.
Yeah, shoegazy for sure. And just like felt right trying to just do mostly cleans for it. I love it immensely. I think it's super cool. Fun lyrics as well. It's a pretty song for sure.
Yeah. And then the album Closer 2.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I hate it when bands have a number and then it doesn't go with the track title.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't it the second song, you know? I remember when Issues did that with Life of a 9 and it was track number 3. I'm like, why isn't it track number 9? Like, my OCD gets in the way and I can't stand it. So...
Yeah, that song is called too because it's about my family and us becoming more people, procreating, having kids, and building a life. But yeah, and then of course it's there's no capital letter, makes it even worse. It's in the wrong spot and it's spelled weird, terrible.
Right. Well, and this song has a really powerful line in it, too, that stuck out to me, which was, everyone has a secret that could break your heart.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really powerful. And, you know, it's also part of the beauty of relationships and intimate friendships is letting people in on some of those darker secrets and choosing to trust.
Yeah.
You know, because everyone does have those dark things that's like, ooh, if you really knew me, you know, would you still be in my life?
Yeah, but like everyone has a secret that can break your heart. But that doesn't mean that you need to hold it in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, did you say that you were signed to a label at one point? Because I thought you were DIY.
Yeah, we did sign to a label at one point, and then we parted ways fairly quick after that.
What, was it one album?
Yeah, and we got that back.
That's nice. That's rare.
Yeah, it's super rare. And this is the craziest thing. So I might be open to the idea of a label someday, but I don't like the idea of being restricted.
Yeah.
And that could come with a label. Not all labels. We at this point can afford to not be on a label, and we like doing it ourselves. I think we would benefit from a label in terms of exposure, for sure. If you're with the right label, you could reach the right people and really get your target audience. And also, I think it will help us tour a lot more because, again, connections.
Right, yeah.
Releasing it ourselves, it's so easy nowadays. Like, you've done it. You've released yourself.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work, but you can do it.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but yeah, I mean, once you kind of learn it and you learn how things work, it is priceless to retain all the rights and to hold on to things and be able to have that full creative control.
Yeah.
So that's so valuable.
Yeah.
My friend told me a quote I loved, I want to share, which was, until people with money seek you out, I think you have to do it the DIY way. And it's like, even when those people with money, those big labels and stuff seek you out, you might even still want to just do it yourself and retain that full creative control.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess it comes down to, are you an entrepreneur or not? You sort of have to be. I mean, look at Metallica. What's his name? Lars Ulrich. He's not a great drummer. Like, no one would say that he's a fantastic drummer. He's a very good songwriter with James Hetfield, but like, his strength is that he's an entrepreneur. He talked to people. He stood outside of shows, handing people demos, getting connections. That is probably one of their biggest aspects of their success. It's his DIY until they got big. There aren't that many successful bands that haven't worked their ass off to be able to get to where they're getting. Like, no one gets success for free. And if they do, it doesn't last. That's for sure. Yeah. So no, I agree with that quote. It's a good quote.
And obviously, for the new listeners who are tuning in because of Adam and Grayscale season, but I'm a filmmaker and I directed a feature called Space Waves, and it was the same story. It was just like we did it all ourselves. We self-funded it and, had no real connections or anything like that. But it was like, you just got to utilize your resources, whatever little things you have, you just utilize it. You use it to the fullest. So, we shot in my hometown and we were sleeping in my parents' house and friends and family's houses and like shooting out in nature or where we didn't need permits, or we'd literally go knock on doors or on businesses and just ask if we could film there. And so that's the way you got to do it. Nobody's going to hand you your dreams. You have to go out there and make it happen yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure. But then like on top of that, you need all like the technical savvy. Like I've seen your movie and it's great. Just the logistics of it.
Yeah.
And then you need to do all the looping.
Yeah, ADR looping, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to do all the sound design on top of that. Like he's closing the door to his red Mustang, for instance.
Yeah.
And you need to fucking time that as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's really complicated. And like even doing things like the color grade, and then you need to do it in a certain technicality so that it can be represented properly on streaming platforms.
Right.
Like streaming platforms have their specifications that you need to meet in order to like put this movie out there.
Right.
So yeah, it was a lot of work and it was like a big growing experience and learned a ton and super happy with, how it turned out, especially for being as young as we are. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's called Space Waves. It's on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube. So go check it out. And it's like a coming of angst.
Yeah.
A coming of angst comedy drama about friendship and podcasting. So Adam checked it out and he approves. So
for sure I did. Yeah, no, yep. It's very sweet and very funny. And also you did a lot of long one takes.
Yes, yeah, I did.
Yeah, that must have been hell.
Yeah, I mean, some of them were out of necessity. Most of them were, me being like amateur auteur wanting to like flex and like do something impressive. I mean, the one take that I loved the most was that 5-minute bedroom scene where they're having their breakup moment. And that one to me was like really powerful. And it was just a way to trap you in the moment. It's just a tripoded shot and you're just stuck there in this claustrophobic room as their friendship is just deteriorating and being ripped apart right in front of you. And it's like, there's no escape. There's no cutting around. There's nothing fancy. It's just, you're sitting in the moment. And I think the actors killed it. And I think that was like my favorite scene in the movie.
Great. So there are a couple of them. One scene that I really enjoyed was when they were doing that presentation at the end and Sawyer comes in and they just huddle around and you shoot from underneath. That was so sweet. I love that. And like the way you edited it was awesome. Yeah. And then I love the scene pretty early in the movie where Marvin and Sawyer are talking. She's smoking and they're just like leaning against his car. She's I can't remember exactly what she said, but I really liked it that her dad used to say.
Worry is an abuse of imagination.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good line. Good.
And you were 22 when you wrote that movie.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed. It was fun to watch. Extremely well done.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was such an awesome film to make, and it was cool for me to write a film that like the first half is a comedy and then the second half is much more of a drama and like a friendship breakup. And so it's like the whole second half is shot at night. Marvin's wardrobe slowly changes to like all black, you know, and it's like it gets a lot more serious. And it's cool to kind of blend genres like that, because a lot of comedies you don't really connect with because sure, they can be funny and stuff, but it's like it's hard to balance something that's like emotionally moving and a lighthearted comedy. And so that was the challenge with this film, and that's what we set out to accomplish.
Yeah. Are you working on anything new?
Yeah. So right now, I mean, obviously I'm mostly focused on keeping this podcast going and getting more bands and musicians. And also I do a lot of comedy episodes as well with myself and my close friends. And we tell stories that are based on personal life experiences and anecdotes. Yeah. But as far as film, right now I'm writing a couple of features, 2 more features. And one of them I'm really considering splitting up into 6 short films and then releasing them over time. And then once all 6 are out, compiling them into one film. Each chapter that would release would also come out with like a 10-minute documentary piece with it. Because right now I'm in a season of trying to figure out a way to realistically get another movie made, and it's like, is it more realistic to try to convince these big investors to give me a couple $100,000 to make one big movie? Or is it more realistic to do them micro budget, more self-funded and part by part? And obviously, any way you do it's going to have logistical challenges, because if you do it part by part over the course of a couple of years, you got the issue of trying to find dedicated actors or figuring out some sort of contract where you can reliably shoot this ongoing story with these people. But it's like, I would rather deal with that challenge than the challenge of trying to get $250,000 up front and then, embark and make this massive project. And you're working on it for probably years at a time without any of it being public. I'm thinking, what about doing it a more forward-thinking way where it's like you're releasing it as you go? It's like what you guys do, and it's like what these bands do now to stay present, to build momentum, to stay in the algorithm. You release more singles, and obviously it's like I'll always be a sucker for wanting to release the one big project all at once, and there's something very special about that. But at this point in my career, and I'm trying to just figure it out how to actually just make it happen. And so the idea of releasing multiple short films in a row, building an audience, building traction seems a lot more realistic. And I'm actually excited about that idea. And I think the ideas you're excited about are the ones you should pursue.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's dope. I hope you figure that out. But it sounds really cool to do like that. And also, like, it makes sense. You will reach 2 type of audiences. One who will follow the entire process, and the second one who will just watch the full movie in the end. So either way, you still get to build an audience along the way, and you then hopefully get to finance it, and you will still reach the same goal at the end.
Yeah, totally. And it just seems a lot more realistic too, if I am going to be self-funding it, paying for it myself, or getting, smaller investments. It just makes more sense to kind of fund it as you go. And looking back on Space Waves, obviously when we did principal photography and we shot for 18 days straight, it was epic, but it was also like a logistical nightmare and things were falling apart left and right. And it was a struggle just to even get any of it done. But then when we did a bunch of pickup shoots, all of those pickup shoots went so much smoother because it was like, oh, we were shooting just a weekend here, a weekend there. Yeah. And so it's like when you have more time to prep and your shoot days are shorter, you have like, say you have a few months and you prep for a weekend shoot date and you do that. And then once that's done, you've got a few more months and you prep for the next weekend shoot date. The process tends to go smoother. And so that was something else I learned. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens next. And, if there's any filmmakers out there listening to this podcast, feel free to reach out, send me a DM on Instagram at Spencer Whiteout. But yeah, so let's wrap up this conversation here. The last thing I wanted to mention was your favorite lyrics, and I'll go first because I think one of my favorite lyrics that you guys had was on that song Violence, and it says, "I'm going to make you fall in love with me just so I can break your heart." I thought that line was so good. It hit me so hard, and I've definitely felt that emotion before, kind of that lust for revenge after a broken relationship, and you're just like, oh, I want to make you feel the heartbreak that I feel. So that was a really powerful line for me.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I think it's from the same song, actually. I think it's the line, it's the way she says my name. Sometimes it's the way she tries. That passion, when you're in a relationship and you have a communication as a couple that only you can have. You see parts of your partner that no one else sees. There's a smile that person has only for you, or like a word they only say to you. There's something so unique for us as a species even to have that. So yeah, that's probably my favorite line.
That's awesome. So talk to me about the upcoming plans you guys have for 2024 and where people can connect with you guys.
Yeah, so for 2024, we hopefully get to start touring. I really want to start writing again. I have such an itch to start writing. I've already started some small things. So have another session here, either during the summer or early autumn, to start writing with Buster, and then we'll hopefully start touring. And yeah, you find us on all the streaming platforms. Grayscale Season, the new album, Feel Something New. Connect with us on Instagram.
Sweet. Yeah, sounds good, man. Dude, well, that was awesome. It was really cool to get to connect with you and
Likewise.
Just stoked to make that connection and talk about the art.
It's been lovely, and thank you for taking your time on this and really spending the enormous prep. I really, really appreciate that. It means a lot.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, leave a rating/review. 5 stars is a power play. I want to welcome any new fans and let you know that there's lots more metalcore band interviews coming soon, so follow the show and connect with me on social medias at Spencer Whiteout. Also, if you're curious about my feature film Space Waves, you can find it on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, and YouTube. As always, stay tuned, stay hyped. That's a wrap.
And that's it.